since you're talking about that, like the family environment, how does the addiction of a parent affect the children in that case? Because I talk to a lot of people who are struggling themselves with addiction, whose parents were, and so I know that's a common thing. So I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about that?
So there's probably a genetic, like, predisposition to addiction. There's probably that, right? We haven't found it, actually, but it's probably there, right? But we do know this, the study of epigenetics has taught us that under stress, certain genes are expressed, right? So a child that doesn't feel deep connection to a parent because a parent is preoccupied with either anxiety, shame, or preoccupied with mood altering, or just as emotionally vacant because they're mood altered, right? That child starts to go into distress. It can be subtle or it can be big. And those genes of distress and survival are turned on in a child, right? So cortisol level goes up, sensitivity to, so like shame, like cortisol, shame, exhaustion, the ability to feel pleasure or dopamine is now suppressed because cortisol is so high, right? And so just from a physiological standpoint, the child is primed to find something external to make themselves feel better, okay? Let's set that aside. Emotionally, the child starts to equate performance with identity. If I can make mom and dad feel good, then I'm safe and secure. So now we're raising codependence, right? And we have a phrase, I'm from the South, if you can't tell. We have a phrase in the South that says, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, you know? And so I'm sure that's in other places too, but that's like Bible in the South. That's like the truth, you know? And so this idea that the child's job is to make mom and dad okay, mom or dad okay. And then if they can't, the child's going to find some other system outside the family in order to fit in, right? And so now the child is split because mom and dad or mom or dad are caught in addiction. Now the child is feeling stressed, feeling lonely, is feeling like it needs to belong to it, like a person's in it. Like he or she needs to find a place to belong and matter. So it starts looking for ways to belong and matter outside the family system. Or it looks for ways inside the family system to belong and matter. I remember as a child my parents were fighting about money, me getting their checkbook, trying to solve their checkbook problem. They weren't fighting about money, I know now, right? Like they were fighting about all kinds of other things that showed up as money, you know? But as a child, I didn't know that, you know? And so I started like trying to be overly helpful and trying to save the family system. Do you think that has any direct relationship to me being a therapist,
Right.
owning counseling centers? 100%, 100% it does, you know? Or when I got married, you know, knowing how for the first 7 years of our marriage to tell Heather I was unhappy about anything. Mm-hmm. Because I thought that if I mentioned what I was unhappy about, it would lead to all kinds of problems. I believed it was my job to keep our marriage happy, you know? So I lived in denial of anything that didn't work for me. I tried to, but I couldn't stay in denial, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and so like I brought that script into our family of my childhood, you know, and I don't think my parents did anything malicious. They weren't malicious people, but they were also revolving around addiction, right, and denial. That goes back in their story as individuals, but also back to their parents. You see it on both sides, our grandparents. You know, you could just see it, right? And you know, fortunately for me, I was the one to begin to break the cycle. Like it happened for me. Like the grace entered my life in a different way, and it was wonderful for me, and it's been great for my family, right? But I'm sure I'm messing my kids up though, like you know,
it's inevitable as part of the human experience, right?
It's part of being a parent and screwing up your kids. It's the right. I have the right to screw my kids up, you know. You know, it's going to take them to tell me how I screwed them up though, like later. Yeah. The biggest gift they can give me is when my oldest child's in her 20s, early 20s, and she's out in the world enough now to know that we're pretty jacked up as a family. And so we've told her we're jacked up, like, hey, this is not normal. But now she's seeing how other people operate, and she's going, huh, y'all are really crazy. And which is the best gift she can tell us,
Yeah.
right? It's like, yeah, this is how she's starting to find words to, this is what it was like to grow up with you buffoons, and that actually becomes the antidote to addiction is truth,
Wow.
and freedom and her ability to have feelings and still be part of the family and not have to manage our feelings. And,
Yeah.
like, that's great.
Yeah.
Right.